Hi guys, and welcome to Dee's Media World. This is episode 30 in my Inuyasha review series. We have done 30 episodes, so this is awesome. This episode is Tetsusaiga is stolen, Showdown at Naraku's castle. So this episode, as I was saying, is like the sequel, basically, to the last episode. What happens right after that? We find, what happens in this episode with, Sango deciding to take the sword or not. And this episode really is about, sort of the similarities in some ways to Sango and Inuyasha. But before I get into that, I will say I love the animation for this episode. As I said before, when they do this animation, this is the best animation in the show. It's not consistent enough. I wish it kind of was. But, each episode you can tell is drawn by different people. But this is my favorite animation. I just wanted to point that out. But anyway, Sango and Inuyasha it starts off with sort of them having a heart-to-heart. Like, Sango is thinking to herself, should she take the sword? And she hasn't told anybody about it or anything, obviously. But she's wondering, should I take the sword? Betray Inuyasha? What will Naraku do with the sword if he gets it? That kind of thing. And but Inuyasha sort of wakes up. I guess he wakes up hearing her. Maybe he was never really asleep. I don't know. But they have like a little conversation. He's telling her like, yeah, I know I have to kill Kohaku, but I do feel bad for you. And Inuyasha's not really someone, not that this is like on his character so much, but he's not really someone to express his emotions or feelings. So it was kind of nice to hear him say, I feel bad for you. The situation sucks. And even he admits, if it was him, if this was his situation and he was with someone, if this was him and he had to kill someone he loved, and it was everything about them was like the same, except maybe those, like the fact that Kohaku isn't Kohaku kind of thing, like he wouldn't be able to do it. And obviously he's talking about Kikyo, and which Kagome feels the need to point out to us as the audience, because she wakes up during the middle of their conversation and is like, oh, he must be talking about Kikyo, as if she like figured it out, like some big story. I'm telling you, Kagome, this is maybe my first time saying it, but what Kagome does a lot of things. She gives exposition in this episode, explains the obvious, points out the obvious. She does do something that's really important that I'm going to talk about later, but there's just a lot of her just saying what's clear. Like, duh, like we don't really need to explain to us. Like, the writers were like, okay, in case they don't get it, here's how they can get it. Like, of course Inuyasha understands Sango's situation because he's practically in the identical same situation with Kikyo. It's a little tweaked a little differently, but it's very similar. Manipulation, really. And, there's the question of, like, can Sango actually forgive and maybe even forget the fact that what Kohaku's done already? And, like, is that her real brother and all that stuff? Obviously, it's him, because I don't think Naraku has the ability to, like, make up. Well, no, he might. But, that is Kohaku. He's just being manipulated. His memory's erased. Whatever. But anyway, after that, Kohaku comes out with some demons, probably trying to make Sango make up her mind. That's Naraku's way of manipulating the situation. They have a fight. Kohaku obviously loses. And Inuyasha's actually about to, like, kill him. Like, I think he was about to, like, cut his head off, like some Game of Thrones beheading kind of thing. And he actually stops, because Kagome actually stops him. And she's like, no, don't kill him. And he decides not to at the last minute. Which is actually kind of surprising that Sango didn't say anything. Like, she didn't say anything about that at all. Like, I guess she still is confused about how she feels. I don't know, because they were clearly watching. And Kohaku even pulls like a self-pity move, which I think that's what makes Sango change her mind. When he's like, oh, you're right, I don't deserve to live. Tries to take the shield shard out of his back, that kind of stuff. And that works to Sango's emotions. Or I guess that reminds her of the old Kohaku. And she decides to steal Inuyasha's sword, the Tetsusaiga, and take it with her to follow Naraku and follow Kohaku, and so she can give it to him and get her brother back. Obviously, this is all a trick, because Naraku probably has no intention of doing anything or keeping his word. This is a villain who just does not keep his word. So, let's see. I thought she did think about it for a while. Sango was actually contemplating, like, okay, should I do this? Should I not do this? I do like that inner monologue. Like, it wasn't an easy decision for her to make. And I don't think it was really about Inuyasha himself. Like, oh, should I steal Inuyasha's sword? He'll think I'm a traitor. Like, no, it wasn't even about that. It was just like, okay, how is this really going to work? Like, am I doing this out of vain? Will it be pointless? But anyway, let's see. She takes it to the place. Of course, everyone else is going to follow. And follow the scent of, I think, Kuhaku's blood or something like that to where Naraku is. And so when Sango gets there, she's talking smack to Naraku, and he's like, okay, she's like, I got the sword, give me my brother. He's like, okay, I'll give you the brother if you get rid of your weapon. And she throws her weapon all the way to the other side of the house for some reason. I'm like, I would have just put it right beside me. It wasn't necessary. It was dramatic, but it wasn't necessary to throw it all the way out there. So anyway, I didn't know why she threw it all the way over there. That wasn't necessary. They start having a fight it's very short though, but they have like kind of a one-on-one comeback. I like it. And I think there are two reasons why Naraku won. Like the little fight that they had. One, Sango I don't think was fully prepared to fight. Like even mentally she is, because she's angry, but all she had was like this sword she has like on her arm, which was really cool. Because Sango had like, she didn't have her full garment. That's the second reason. She didn't have her full like armor on or whatever whatever you want to call her outfit. She didn't have that on. That's why I feel like she lost, because she should have been able to win. Naraku's not really a fighter in that way. So, but speaking of that, you never really see Naraku like fight somebody in the show. Most of the time, later on especially, he's gonna have like minions and stuff like that. But yeah, like if she had her full armor on, maybe she would have been more ready for the fight. I'm not sure, but he did cheat by using miasma. And she finds out when she cuts off the baboon costume that she's actually I wrote their name down, Kobiwaki or something, Kagawaki, and that Naraku basically killed Kagawaki, took his body, something like that kind of thing going on there, and took his body and has been pretending to be the Lord. I don't see why it matters if he could. I mean, I haven't really seen any subjects around him in a while, but anyway, Sango gets injured, so does Kilala. Kilala gets poisoned. She gets poisoned too, but Kilala gets poisoned from directly biting Naraku, which was a terrible idea. But she's trying to protect her mistress or whatever. Okay, so this is probably the most important thing about it, is that they have Kuhaku come out, and basically Naraku's like, fight Kuhaku. He gives her back her weapon, I think, and basically, long story short, Sango does not fight her brother. In fact, she doesn't even defend herself against her brother. Like, she loves her brother so much, she's willing to die for him, but also the fact she's not even going to try and defend herself, because to me, the very least thing I would have done was, like, duck behind my armor, like duck behind my boomerang or something, like try to dodge his attacks. I'm not gonna be straight up murdered like that. Like, luckily he didn't kill her, but I'm sitting here thinking at least she could have defended herself. But anyway, for some reason she faints. She walks over to him and she's like, I can't do this. I can't kill my own little brother or whatever. And she faints, and then for some reason that's not explained, Kuhaku's memories come back. Or something comes back where he's like, oh, that's my sister. Or sister, oh my god, how did I do this to my sister? Or something like that. And I'm like, okay, why does your memory come back now? I'm confused. And they don't explain it either. Maybe it's something like Naraku has some kind of spell on him that's for a certain amount of time. I don't really know. It's kind of confusing. I don't know. I guess we're not meant to know. And the gang reaches there or whatever, and they find out what Naraku's trying to do with Sango and her brother. And this bugged me because it's so stupid. And is Kagome and Moroku, one of them, he basically says, this is the same thing that happened with you and Kikyo, Inuyasha. Like, try to pin two people who love each other against each other. One kills the other, trying to kill, for the sake of amusement, for the sake of Naraku, tricking them, all that stuff. And then Inuyasha has the nerve to say, what do you mean? Because, like, as if he don't get that. I'm like, Inuyasha, are you that slow? Like, that is clear. This situation is practically identical. Not the same way it's set up, necessarily, but the idea is the same. Set two people who love each other against one another, possess one or change one, whatever, and then have them kill each other. Or hopefully is the end result, obviously. But how do you not know what you mean? You just said earlier in this episode that you understood what was going on. Like, that you understood that you couldn't do that if it was you. You were telling Sango that you empathize with her. It's clearly very similar. Like, really, Inuyasha, oh my god, does everything have to be explained to you? And then Kagome has to re-explain everything, but which is why I said she's the exposition of the episode. We basically learned what we probably already knew. Sango's not going to kill her own brother. It's not that kind of show. She's not going to kill her brother. She still loves him. As I said, she won't even protect herself from him. But she decides to give him, I think, her mask or extra mask when the miasma is going up because she still loves him. And it's really endearing. Probably, if you think about it, they're not my favorite relationship in the show at all. But if you think about it, that's real love there. Like, someone you love is hurting you physically, and you're not even going to defend yourself. You're not, and not in an abusive way, like an abusive relationship, because I don't think that's another story. But the fact that she loves her brother so much, she would die for him, and it seems okay with it. And that even gets touched on more later on. But she couldn't even harm him. She couldn't even protect herself from him. That's how much she loves him. That's real deep. That's like the way you expect like a mother to love her child kind of thing. Not necessarily a brother-sister relationship. But anyway, Kagome, while they've kind of recovering from what's going on, Kagome actually does something in this episode. She shoots Naraku, I think twice with an arrow, once or twice. Almost kills him. And it's like, oh, okay, Kagome, I see you. And Naraku, I guess not knowing who Kagome is yet, that she's a reincarnation of Kikyo, which I guess he would know yet. I'm not really sure. No, I guess not. He doesn't really know. And she's, Kagome gets really fired up and she talks a lot of smack like she typically does. But she actually can back it up this episode and she shoots Naraku twice, and that basically saves all their lives because it looked like he was going to kill them all. And, but the castle disappears. They don't know where Naraku is. Stuff like that. Speeding it up, Kagome and Inuyasha sort of talk. Inuyasha did make me laugh when he says to Kagome, wow, you're almost as good as me. You're almost fighting as good as me. I was like, Inuyasha, you're not that great a fighter. That's not the best. At this point in the show, that's not a great compliment. Like, saying Inuyasha, saying to someone, oh, you're almost as good a fighter as me. I'm like, Inuyasha, you win a lot of your fights, and this is consistent through the show. Most of them, some of them from skill, a lot of them from luck or doing something at the last minute that saves you. Like, so you get it together real quick. That's for sure. So, in any case, I guess you could say that if that's the case, that Kagome got it together real quick and saved everybody. But anyway, Sango, I love the ending to this episode. Sango's like, I can't stay here. I betrayed you guys. My brother, like all this stuff is just too much. And basically they're all trying to convince her to stay. And while what I love about this scene is that she tries to get up and walk away. That she's using her boomerang, Haraikos, I think is how it's pronounced. She's trying to like leave, but she's so physically like impaled that she can't. That she's so hurt that she can't physically move. And I love that. That shows the strength in Sango. Because I always felt that Sango was sort of an underrated character in the show. Like Kagome gets a lot of attention, but I feel like Sango deserves a little bit more than her. Because there's a lot of strength in Sango. And because later on in the show, when things kind of get tangled in with the Inuyasha Kagome Kikyo situation, and how like people were always taking Kagome's side and stuff and saying that Kagome is strong and stuff. I'm like, Kagome is strong in her mentally most of the time, or like spiritually a lot of the time. But Sango really is more than Kagome when it comes to that. The strength Sango has is actually pretty incredible considering all the bad things that's happened to her. The fact that she keeps fighting when she tries. The fact that, she's still trying to get up after getting almost killed by her own brother. Like, most people would have gone into depression and said, drunk themselves to death, or maybe anger would have motivated them or something. But there's something strong inside Sango that makes her sort of like, I feel like she should get more attention for that. But basically she decides to stay kind of when Inuyasha talks some sense into her. He's like, God, what do you want us to do, babe? Like, he's kind of like, in his own blunt way, he's like, okay, like, you're a good fighter, stick with us, we need you. He kind of says, I don't remember what the other three say. Like, Shippo tries to play it like the cutesy kid thing, like, oh, don't you like us anymore, Sango? Don't you like us anymore? And it's like, it's not even about you guys, I'm sure. But Inuyasha's like, we want you to stay around because, you're not a bad fighter and stuff like that. And, everyone's kind of impressed by him. I'm like, well, Inuyasha isn't he's not that dumb. He knows Sango contributes to the team. I mean, they feel bad. Like, I think the reason Sango wanted to leave partly because, she betrayed them and stuff and felt vulnerable. But I think partly it's because she didn't want to be a burden. Because I don't think Sango has ever really had to... you don't want to be in a situation where you feel like you're a burden to other people. Like, oh, I just keep getting you into trouble and I keep hurting you and stuff like that. So let me just hit the road and go on my own and stuff like that. And, of course she's not going to do that because when you look at any poster of Inuyasha with the gang, Sango's always there. So she's going to stay. But you're kind of like, yeah, you should stay because, you do bring something to the table and it's important that you stick around. And then the episode ends with Sango crying in Kagome's lap and Kagome telling her, it's going to be okay. That's really sad. Because if you think about it, I'm trying to think. I don't think Sango has cried up to this point. Like, so much has happened in such a small amount of time. Like, she finds out her family's been killed. All her villagers been killed. Her dad was killed right in front of her eyes. Her brother's probably dead, but she kind of accepts that. Like, it's been a while, and there's, how many episodes? It's been like 6 episodes or so since we met Sango, or so, like, something like that, because she comes in episode 24, and, but she hasn't had the time to actually, like, cry about it, and even though that's sort of how the episode ends, it kind of ends on this sad note. I like that. I like that it ends. There's not a lot of comedy in this episode, either. Like, I don't think there's a little bit, because I don't know if there's an episode of Inuyasha that doesn't have something funny happen. Moroku tells Inuyasha, like, oh, yeah, this is coming from a guy who stole your sword so easily, which she kind of did, because I think he kind of let her, but, I think he was also in shock, like, what the heck are you doing? But, that was funny, some of the facial expressions, but, I love the bond that's sort of going in with these characters, that you're starting to see them develop a little bit, or Sango maybe is, because Sango, I like that Sango, she was having a hard time, like, being in a group, I think, and not because she may not be a team player or something, or she has to be the leader, but just, like, these are strangers, right? Like, Moroku kind of fit in pretty quickly. I mean, him and Inuyasha had, like, one episode of problems, episode 16, with the ink dryer well, and Inuyasha was the one who had problems with him. Moroku didn't have no problems with anybody. So, or Shippo too. I mean, Shippo's a brat, but the idea is that Sango's kind of having a hard time fitting in. Should she stick around and stuff like that? And it kind of makes you wonder what the show would have been like if she decided to go on her own. Obviously, I can't really picture that happening. She's not really what I would think of as a loner character. So, I don't know. I don't think I can see that happening. I really had a lot to say about this episode, surprisingly. I've seen it many times, but I'm still surprised how much I have to say about it. It's a really good episode for a really good show. I do feel that Sango's not a character who gets a lot of attention, so maybe that's why I feel I have to talk for her or something like that. Because people always think of, like, Kagome and Inuyasha. And, of course, they're big parts of the show, too. But, there's other important characters. But anyway, that's kind of the main thing I wanted to say about the episode. I don't know how long this video is by now, but it's a really good episode. One of my favorites. I plan on doing a top number of favorite episodes. I know this will definitely be on it. So, I'll see you guys later. Deuces.